in the interim.
Ta-da. All right, there
Okay.
we go. That was it. That was the big to do. Hi, I'm here this morning with Josh Gatlin, a local cannabis farmer. Hey, Josh.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm really good. We were talking, I don't know. I was thinking it was a couple months ago, and then the more I thought about it, it might have been 6 months ago. But you were saying some
Yeah.
really interesting things about the challenges and all the hoops that you have to go through. And
Oh,
and I thought, you know what? I'm not the only person that doesn't know anything about having a legalized farm. And I just thought maybe you could share a little bit
sure.
because
Yeah.
I'd be interested.
Well, Prop 64, passed, and that was 2016, right? Um, that changed everything for a lot of us. And at that point, I had been in the industry after, growing up here, you know that, right? We've known each other now for 40 years. Is that wow? But you haven't aged a bit. I've,
Yeah, right.
I've
That's
grown
why I
two
love you.
feet, but yeah. So things have changed for sure after Prop 64. I was in the industry again, maybe since 2009 was my first real season doing this and making money doing it. And since then, it's the only thing I've done. So I think we're through 17 seasons now. It's
Wow.
hard to think about, but yeah, 17 seasons. So I went from feeling like kind of a newbie, although my parents, I've had some experience in it growing up in the 80s with the camp and that and saw the helicopters and the stuff we went through. But it was a different game starting in the 90s.
I just want to say, I was so naive, really. I
Yeah.
had no clue what's going on, but I knew when the camp helicopters went over, all of a
Yeah.
sudden everybody left their farms and they all congregated at the post office. And
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it was wild. And as a kid, you don't really understand the dangers. And it got real for me a couple of times just to veer off track or backtrack, hiding when I would be maybe carrying water down to what would be four or five plants in say a dry creek bed, kind of half under some trees where they get some sunlight. That was just a whole different game. And you really only had to grow a few pounds of it to get by then. I think back in 1984 through 88, the prices were still like, close to $4,000 a pound.
wow.
And although I didn't know a ton about that at the time, I just knew that's how Christmas was funded. That's how we made it. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of us kids, at least the family income was supplemented through growing pot, weed, and now, cannabis, of course, is the standard word we use, but back then it was just weed grow. So I was kind of not burnt on it, but I'd had my fill of it by the time I'd graduated high school and moved away. And I was gone a total of 15 years, in Florida and Las Vegas, and owned a painting business, and did other things with my life. And when the economy started to fail in 2000, it was 2008 really, but in nine, it was just evident that even though my clientele in Las Vegas as a painting contractor was a little bit immune to some of that stuff, even they stopped spending money, and I had to make a choice. Should I run back home like some of my buddies and even a lot of my friends that are from Las Vegas had moved out ahead of me? We're gonna go grow weed in Humboldt County. And I wasn't really interested, to be honest. I wasn't. It was only when my living expenses became more than I was making as a painter, when everything really turned down and Las Vegas took a hit. I decided to, run home to mommy is what I always say. And yeah, and so that's when I got into the industry and put up a big greenhouse, in the backyard. Thank God my mother was willing to do that, and just thought, hey, I better do this and at least like save the property that she has, and kind of put our resources together. And that's how that happened. And I just steadily progressed and invested back in the industry and myself, and got a big, I was into indoor a lot then. And then the summer times I would do projects and lease small properties and just kind of worked my way up until we had our own 80-acre parcel, and it was pretty barren at the time. We had a couple of greenhouses, and we just kept investing in infrastructure up and up and up and taking these risks because it wasn't legal yet, but everybody was doing it and the money was great. There were pitfalls with that, though, a lot of ripoffs, which is still the case, to be honest. But yeah, when Prop
Hmm.
64 passed, it was exciting in a way because we had wanted to be branded, and we started doing that back in 2014 and 2015. We actually started branding ourselves, the brand HillStrong, started making hats and shirts, and kind of got ahead of the game before it was legalized, kind of like repping, like HillStrong,
Yeah.
pulling into Southern Humboldt, and some people knew us, some, obviously some didn't, but we wanted to be known for what we were doing. And yeah, then things went legal, and that was the beginning of the end, for a lot of farms. And
Yeah.
we're still holding on, but by a thread. It was just once you get the government involved, obviously it makes things tougher. But I think they really banded together and attacked the cannabis industry and just tried to rake it for everything they could. And now you sit where we are now with, maybe 25% of the farms that were operating in 2016 still running,
Wow.
and we're holding on, but it's tough. It is.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that was very interesting.
Was that a good one?
Yeah, that's great. But I don't have anything to say about it. That was just interesting to listen to.
Pick a
Um,
point and I could dive deeper,
yeah.
but
Well, there was a point where you said that there was some hoop that you had to go through, and so we couldn't meet up for golf. Do you remember that when they said you weren't legal or something anymore? Or
yeah, so
what was that about?
well, so we are still, I don't want to say in the middle, we're at the very end of this process. And again, just pushing it right to the limit here. So we're still on what they call a provisional state license.
Well,
We
weren't you one
haven't.
of the first people that had a state license?
We are. Yeah, we were. Uh-huh. And what were we? Number 401, which is that's out of all licensing, including distribution companies, nurseries, and dispensaries, and all of that. So out of farms, I'm not sure what number we were in farms, but we had to be, in the low 200s. So, we were on board right away, doing everything we could to keep up with it. And, we should have had our annual, years ago, but what they do is, and when I say they, it's a multitude of government agencies, including local. You have the planning department that's in charge of all your permitting, and they want you to be, obviously we want the permits, we want to be permitted and comply with everything, but what they require for each permit are reports. You have to hire engineers to come out and do things like drainage reports on roads, replacing culverts. A lot of times that goes through CDFW, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, so they have their own regulations. And a lot of these regulations kind of they'll contradict each other. Fish and Wildlife will want an 18-inch culvert, and so you go and replace a 16-inch culvert and put in an 18, and then all of a sudden, Public Works, who sees you have a subdivide, you didn't upgrade your culverts when the property was subdivided years ago, now requires a 24-inch culvert. So you
Oh,
end up doubling back on work and getting, I don't know how many road evaluations we've had, multiple engineers walking up and down my same little strip of road, coming up with new things for us to replace and, rip out. But this particular process has to do with our parcel being subdivided, somehow they say illegally. What was it? Maybe it was 2007. So 7 years before we were on the property, and almost a full 10 years before we actually purchased the property. And nobody nobody knew about this. Now we're coming up
Oh,
for
jeez.
our annual license. We're, last year, everything is we finally did it after hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. When you combine all of these experts and engineers and all the county fees and the taxes and culvert replacements and, road improvements, you just, timber harvest reports, and I can go on and on. Um, they say, wait a minute. Again, we couldn't believe it, but it was true. We have one more thing for you to do. Now, this is to legalize the parcel that we had no idea was illegal. And because we had secured multiple permits, we paid taxes on it. It's on all the maps. We have an APN number, so we did a title report on it through Humboldt Land and Title before we actually made the purchase, and nothing came up. So we did our due diligence, and we feel, slighted to say the least. But
Well, yeah,
nonetheless,
because the person that divided them, that was like you said, 10 years before you even got
it
involved.
was, yeah, yeah. So
It's,
they hold us responsible for it, and
uh,
so what it is, and now it's been pushed over to Public Works, and Public Works is in charge of any subdivisions and any of the upgrades or improvements that are required. Because every time you subdivide a property, obviously you have to prove that now, if I turn one property into two, now there's a potential for two homesteads, two families out there, which means more people. So of course there's fire safe regulations, and how the drainage of the road needs to be changed, or why. I still don't understand that one. It seems like the water's been falling the way it's been falling for centuries or millions of years, right? It's like at least 115 years that this road has been in existence, But no, there are requirements. So what they do is they pull up the 2007 requirements when the property was illegally split, and we have to abide by those. And so we're in the final stages of that, which
uh,
includes paving, an apron coming off of the county road, a 1,000 square foot apron. And yeah, so currently I'm getting bids on that. I actually need it done in the next week, hopefully when we have some sunshine. And once that's finished, really, it should just be signing my name on a couple dotted lines, handing over a few thousand more dollars to the county, and here we are.
well,
so
good
so
luck
that's
with
what
that.
yeah, so that was the crisis that kept me from playing golf this summer. We had a really
Yeah.
hard time talking the Department of Cannabis Control into giving us an extension on for renewing our provisional license. And yeah, we did some after hours thing, and believe it or not, there really are some good people at DCC, and it's hard to even put that out there in the world. There are some good people. There really are, and yeah, some folks stay after hours and actually, yeah, delete some stuff from my account in order to allow me to renew or extend that licensing period, which allowed us to operate this year. So I'm really thankful for that, and we'll see how this next year goes. This wasn't a great season. I don't think for a lot of people, it's getting more and more difficult. The market price, shrinks down right to about where the cost of production is.
Yeah. Well, for the production costs of those trying to do it legally, aren't there
Yeah.
still people out there doing it illegally?
That's what I find. That's what I find hard to believe. Yes, it is true. There are a lot of them, and why they're not. It's funny to be on the other side of it. First of all, to be the good guy. Is that what we? I don't know if we're the good guys or the bad guys at this point. Those of us that have gone, fully legal. But of course, I'll I look at it like, well, we've gone through all of this crap. You've put us through. Really, you've broken so many families, so many, a county that was thriving, money being splashed everywhere, businesses doing well, and
Yeah.
now you've really choked off the economy, and so many families, so many of my friends and great neighbors aren't operating anymore, have moved out of the area, lost their properties. It's just been devastating. And
Yeah, like Garberville is a former shadow of itself.
it's really sad. Yeah. It really is, and those of us that are still hanging on and hoping for things to kind of flatten out a little bit. When we see these massive illegal grows going on. I mean, there's footage all over YouTube. You can see, farms with just dozens of greenhouses, especially down in the valley, even down in the desert, in Southern California. It's really bad. And these are like cartel operations, and I don't know if they're just afraid to go in or what, but I feel it's California's responsibility for, to those of us that have literally invested everything. We have nothing left to give. We're gasping for air, and they should be taking these people out, and allowing us to at least survive. So, there's different ways. People have different
Well,
opinions, but it
I
seems purposeful.
a lot of people around, maybe I don't know what a lot of people are. I know of some people in
Yeah,
like 2000, let's say 2010 to 2014, that were selling their property out in Bridgeville,
yeah,
and like
astronomical prices.
yeah, the
Yeah,
prices were huge, and somebody told me that they were the a real estate agent who I don't want to name
yeah,
told me that they knew they were selling these properties to some foreign entity that was
yeah,
coming in
right.
and growing pot illegally, and
Yeah,
that wasn't going to follow drainage codes or
no.
take care of the rivers or
Yeah,
care
the
about
pesticide
replanting or
use.
oh god,
Yeah.
above our wells. Yeah.
It's
And the
happened everywhere.
that
Yeah.
that real estate agent was just like, they were looking to turn the property over for the property owner. They were
Yeah.
looking to make their money, and they
Well,
knew it was going sour.
there were a lot of people that took advantage of it at the right time. And I look back on it now and I wish I would have taken an offer made yeah, on my property in the spring of 2020.
Oh boy.
I had people calling me continuously wanting to lease the property, which we did a couple of times because I did start a business consulting, for other farms, especially out in Larrabee Valley. For me, it was just something different. It was a chance to go out and spread what I thought. I know so much more now than I did just 5, 6 years ago. I did have some knowledge to impart to out of state investors who are coming in trying to get into this green rush, and they're just a hair late buying in 2019 and 2020. I did bail out of my own farm and lease it out for two years to two different groups. One of them being a Serbian and Bulgarian
Yeah,
combination.
both the Bulgarians is
Yeah,
what I heard were
and
in East County.
funny enough, this is funny. I had no idea, but to go pick up, it was their final payment. We had the payment structure that had me cleared in late November or something, and they wanted me to come out and meet them out Highway 36,
Yeah.
and they gave me a mile marker and road to turn off on, and I thought to myself, that seems really familiar. Wow, that's really close to where I grew up. Turns out they owned the property that I grew up on going to Bridgefield School. And I pulled into my old driveway.
Oh
Yeah, yeah,
wow.
yeah. So it was really wild. That was just a total coincidence. They had already run
Yeah.
the property and they beat it up pretty bad, and the next
Yeah.
year I leased it to someone else. But yeah, there's a lot of that. Yeah, a lot of foreigners jumping into it, and you're there, for the most part, I don't want to accuse everybody of, shooting pesticides everywhere, but that was a big problem. None of their product would test, so it was a problem in the track and trace system, and you end up having to get really creative, and yeah, it
Yeah.
was a nightmare. And we had to replace a bunch of soil and all kinds of other things. And that was my experience with dealing with foreigners, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
They weren't interested.
from my understanding, that was pretty ubiquitous about what was happening out
Yeah,
that way on a lot of properties, which is really too bad.
yeah.
But
It was.
when I voted, because I voted to make marijuana legal,
Oh,
Lo those many years
the
ago.
connection's getting bad. Sorry, I can't. I'm joking. You voted. You voted.
I
For
voted.
God's sake. I
I
still love you.
okay, I
Don't
voted.
worry.
But
I'm teasing.
our fear was that the big companies, the big cigarette companies
Yeah.
were going to come in. But that hasn't really happened, has it? Like
No,
the
that
tobacco companies haven't come to.
no, that was everybody's that was kind of the narrative for sure. Everybody's fear. Yeah, Marlboro's already buying, RJ Reynolds is already buying up,
Yeah.
chunks of honeydew. And I don't I don't know how true any of that is. I haven't seen any proof of that. I don't think
Yeah, no, me
any of
neither.
it's true.
You know what?
It's
It goes
that's
to
like
show that you can't worry because you always
yeah.
worry about the wrong thing.
It's true. Well, the thing is why would a company like that want to have a farm out in the mountains with all of the groundwater regulations, all the regulations because of the natural environment. It's not ag, zone property. And you're going through the mountains to get there on terrible roads and growing in the most difficult areas to grow when you have these massive
Wait. I just want to say your sentence again, but differently.
yeah.
When you're farming in the most beautiful place on the most
It's true.
scenic roads, you know, it's like,
It really is. You know, well,
yeah.
I think that's the reason both of us have been here for so long, and for sure, there's no place like it.
Can you
That
imagine that my whole life, my job was driving out Highway 36 past Grizzly Creek. What an incredible way to go.
it, it
Uh,
It's
yeah.
unreal. Yeah, I'm glad. So many of us, it's easy to take it for granted. You get so busy and stressed out in life, and it's just really, it's nice to just sit back and, I have a friend visiting me. We grew up together here, or at least spent high school, running together, and he lives up in Idaho, which is gorgeous. But man, just yesterday cruising around with him for a little bit, he was just in awe of a place that he's spent a couple decades of his life, and it truly is yeah. So there. It's
Yeah.
that's how I feel. Okay, it's not a
Yeah.
terrible. Yeah, it's not a terrible drive. These roads, these terrible county roads, and the one, places like Shelter Cove where there's one way in, one way out.
Never been to Shelter Cove.
I hear that from so many people who have spent their lives here. And for me, I'd been there maybe a couple of times in my life until the past few years. My farm happens to be about 30 minutes from Shelter Cove, which is part of what I consider our farm to be in what I call the Goldilocks zone for farming, where our proximity to the ocean is just perfect to get the benefit of the cool air,
Yeah.
but not all the fog and wetness. We have that Kings Range wall, to block a lot of that. Yeah, it's just a hop and a skip for us. And man, I've spent a lot of time there, and that's just an incredible place that you can still buy a house for relatively cheap, and there's lots for sale. And the reason why is because it's so difficult to get to for people that aren't familiar with these roads and know how to drive them. I'm on this stuff every day, ripping up and down a four-wheel drive on dirt roads constantly. So a curvy road to Shelter Cove is nothing for a lot of us. And once you do it, wow, it's just we have these little hidden gems, and thank God some of these roads are tough, because otherwise I think the Bay Area would have already spread up into us, and it would be far worse than it is now with the population. So
Well, Mike and I just got back from driving all through Illinois and Iowa and Missouri. And as we're on these
beautiful.
roads that are like straight
Yeah.
forever,
Yeah.
and they meet at 90-degree angles, and then they're straight that way, and
Yeah.
then they another
You
90
could
degree
fall
angle.
asleep on those
And
things
then
if you're not
and I
careful.
thought, no wonder these people have a heart attack when they come out and drive 101 or
Yeah.
36 or 299. They don't even know what a curve is.
Exactly. And
Uh,
I now, when I hop on 36, and especially after I'd really revisited it so many times, driving it almost every day when I was consulting out there after being away for so long. I mean, I moved back here in 2009, and I've been out Highway 36 a few times. But you see the stark contrast between the county road out to my farm and Highway 36. it's Highway 36 is so nice and
Yeah.
smooth. And I think it's why there's so many wrecks. People, you can get going so fast on the damn thing. And 299 is the same. People complain about it, but come out to Eddersburg,
Yeah.
from Redway. You know, you're lucky if you don't, it's like 12 ply tire minimum, or you'll pop one of those suckers at Nepal.
What I always
Yeah,
wanted
so
somebody to do is to build a video game that was a simulation of driving from Fortuna
the
out to
Bridgeville school.
Bridgeville.
Yeah,
Because I always wanted to see if I could drive it with my eyes closed. Because there
yeah.
was a point in my life where I thought, I think maybe I could just drive this.
Every single curve. I can't imagine how many times you've driven that road because I know I'm in the multiple thousands of times. So
Yeah.
you are, yeah,
Well,
you got me beat, and yeah,
I don't,
it's
yeah.
amazing. And
Well,
you've
you
never been in
figure,
any real wrecks or anything on that road either, have you?
oh no, I did.
Wow.
I was towards the end of my career. It was raining, and
Uh-huh.
I'd really slowed down, and I was going 45 miles an hour because
Huh.
when it's raining, you want to slow down because of
Yep.
conditions, right?
Yep.
And my son was in the car. He was working computers out at Bridgeville at that point,
Okay.
and there was water on the road just past Pamplin Grove where I've
Yeah.
never seen water before.
No way.
And
You hydroplaned.
I just hydroplaned. I hit
Huh.
3 redwood trees. I
Oh,
ripped 2 tires off the car.
really?
And well, yeah, needless to say, it was totaled. And
Did
I
you
went,
stay on the road or did you?
yeah, we were on the road.
Yeah.
We did a full
Oh, wow.
360 and just hit a different tree, hit
Oh,
hit
boy.
a tree with the front driver's side quarter panel, turned
Yeah.
around, hit a tree with the passenger back quarter
Oh,
panel.
you were just dinging right down the road. Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
yeah, it was really scary,
Oh,
but there was nothing I could do because we're hydroplaning. And
yeah.
I just said to my son, I said, I'm really sorry. That's
Yeah.
the last thing
What
I
do you
remember.
say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry I did this to you. Because I think that
Oh,
he's had some back issues because of it. But and when the
well,
car finally stopped, we were like, "Are you all right? All right?" And we're fine, ostensibly. And then
awesome.
I look around, I go, God, look at the litter around here. I can't believe what trash hogs people are.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I go, wait a
Wait,
minute,
that's my
that's all
stuff.
my stuff.
Yeah.
Because I had made this little game with like 1,000 little pieces, like paper pieces like this to
Oh,
teach.
no.
Yeah, I don't know if you, through the ages, I had modified through the ages. So it included all the sixth and seventh grade curriculum. And
Yeah.
so I was going to introduce this game, and it's just all over. And I went into shock. And I know I went into shock because I'm standing in the middle of Highway 36 picking
Yeah.
up little pieces of paper.
Yeah, that's a,
And thank God for Paul because he came over and he said, "Mom, you're scaring me. Get
yeah,
off the
like,
road."
okay, we have bigger fish to fry
Yeah.
here. And it's paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, yeah, that's biodegradable.
But
Pick up your
luckily we were okay.
blinkers and tires and all the other crap. But get out of the road. That I
Yeah.
guess that was my first concern, I guess, or would be when you're spinning down the highways, oncoming traffic. And yeah,
We were just lucky, and we were lucky
it's
we got over to this
yeah,
side. And then the first person that found us, it was because did I mention it was raining? And
yeah.
so I mean it's just pouring, but the ranger from Pamplin Grove just happened by, and
Oh,
he put coats on us and
nice.
put us in his truck with the heater running and called
Yeah.
Mike, who was at that
Put
time
some
driving
flares out
bus.
and
Yeah, he did all
yeah,
the right things. Thank you so much, whatever your name was.
it's awesome.
And anyway, he calls the school and says, Virginia's been in this wreck. Mike needs to come, but everybody's fine. Everything's fine. So he finishes, he's doing the morning bus route. So he
Hmm.
finishes the bus route and then he does the one up to Blocksburg and comes back because everything's fine. It's no big deal. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, he shows up like 2 hours after the accident. Thanks, hon. Glad I was on your radar. Got to get those kids to school.
She'll be
That'll
fine.
be fine.
It's
Hey,
just a little, yeah.
just a little wreck.
Or just a little ding on the side.
That's right.
So when he saw the damage to the car, was he apologetic or
No,
still?
they
He
just
knows you're a tough lady.
yeah, they just took us to the hospital and checked us out just,
Yeah.
in case.
Well,
But my timer is saying we're almost out of time, and I know you've got other things to do, so
yeah.
we need to do whatever sign off you want to do.
Okay.
Like, oh, it's so good to see you.
It's so good. It really is good to see
It
you
really
again.
is good to see you.
I'm very grateful for the relationship that we have and that you
Yeah.
have with so many of your past students, especially, we'll say our group, everybody knows who they are. But what a yeah, just what an
Yeah.
influential person you've been in
Oh.
my life, and I'm just so thankful for you. And yeah, it's great
Oh, I
to be
didn't
able to
mean you
hang
had
out
to
and play
say no.
golf with my teacher that I've known for 40 years is just amazing. But yeah,
When I said we were going to sign off, I didn't mean you had to say nice things about me.
no, I was going to say those
But that
anyway.
was very
I
sweet.
want to say those as publicly as I can. I actually have a billboard being painted. Just I love Miss M. But one thing I did want to add is, if anybody watching would like to see some of the branding stuff and just get a little more history of our farm, which would include a ton of different photos. Obviously, would be the Instagram account, which I haven't added to. We've really slowed down on the branding and marketing that way, and just gone more into bulk sales. But HillStrong underscore Humboldt is our Instagram. And yeah, so check that out and you kind of get an idea of the progression of the farm through the years, because you'll see that you'll see the evolution of things through these photos, and there's some videos and some of the stuff that we've done in dispensaries. We were in 97 dispensaries up and down the state at one point, and really went headfirst into the legalization process, with all the best intentions. And
Well,
Manny, we just found out it doesn't work out, when you
yeah, that's life.
when you're in the red every year, it's
Yeah.
but
So if you send me the link, I'll post it on Patreon. And
cool.
I don't know if you visited Patreon, but
Yes.
patreon.com Virginia Howard Mullen. You can go there and you can listen to the podcast, but you can also access that link if you send it to me. I'll put it in
Yes.
the show notes, as
I'll
they
do it.
say.
Okay, I'll do that. And I want to catch up on some more shows as well. They're always fun. I don't know if I'll
All
watch
right.
this one, watch
Yeah,
it
I know
yourself,
it's
but
always hard to watch
but
yourself.
but but I appreciate the invite and the conversation, and yeah, I
Yeah.
hope I covered enough bases
Yeah.
for
I find you
everyone.
fascinating. What can I say?
Oh, well,
Okay.
same to you.
So have a great day. Peace
You
out.
too. Yeah, the sun's out. I'm gonna maybe go try to play golf with my buddy here. So,
All
but I'll
right.
see you soon. You have a safe trip and send me some photos along the way. Love you.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye.